The three biggest purchases most people make in their lifetime are their home, their cars, and then maybe their kids' college education. And for most families, those numbers feel pretty terrifying. They add up to millions of dollars. It feels like a bottomless pit they keep throwing money into, hoping one day they're going to fill it up. But the wealthy, they don't think that way. They don't save up to afford things. They build systems so their big purchases actually pay back over time. Now, if you're a business owner, you're a dual income household putting in maybe six figures, you're still stressing about how you're going to pay for all this stuff. I want you to know something. It's not because you're not making enough money. The game isn't about earning more. It's about using what you already have differently. Now, most people think they need a bigger income to afford a better life. The wealthy know they just need a better system. So in this video, I'm going to show you the better system. I'm going to break down the exact math, and the point isn't just to teach you how to buy cooler stuff. It's about removing the stress around money. So you can move your family into a great school district. You can drive your kids around in a safe car and send your kids to the best schools they can get into, all without worrying about the dollars and the cents. Now, before we start breaking down the math, you have to understand something. Your money is always working for someone. When you deposit money in a bank, the bank is using the money, right? They're lending it out. They make money with your money, but they pay you almost nothing. The wealthy, they flip that system. They store their cash in a vehicle that compounds over time and can be borrowed against. So their dollars keep growing even while they use them. Let me show you how this works with maybe one of the most common vehicles the wealthy use. It's a high cash value life insurance policy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Life insurance, like really, Mark? But here's why it works. It gives you three things that your bank will never offer you. First, it gives you liquidity because you can access your cash when you need it. Second, it gives you control because you can decide how and when to use it. And third, it gives you leverage because you can borrow against it without stopping the growth. Now, the best part, your money keeps working for you 24 hours a day, even while you're using it. Now, once you understand the system, you'll see how the wealthy buy life's biggest purchases and end up richer after doing it. So let's start with the first one, your home. For most people, buying a home is the biggest purchase they'll ever make. The average person will spend maybe $1.5 million on housing over their lifetime. I mean, that's a lot of money. Now, let's say that instead of tying up all that money, you fund a high cash value life insurance policy with $150,000. Now, that policy is earning, say, about 5% per year. Then you borrow $150,000 from the policy to use as your down payment on a house. You repay that loan over 15 years at about, let's say, 5% interest. Now, you might be thinking, so if I'm earning 5% and I'm borrowing 5%, that's a wash, right? Well, actually, no, it's not even close because the money inside your policy keeps compounding every single year. So let's run the numbers. Over 15 years, you'll pay roughly $63,000 in interest. But that same $150,000 keeps compounding, earning $161,000 over the same period. That's a positive spread of nearly $100,000 just on the down payment alone. And if you leave that $100,000 compounding for another, say, 20 years at 5%, it grows to roughly $260,000. Now, most people lock their dollars into one job, right? The down payment, it sits in the house. It's done. It's static. But when you optimize, that same capital is now doing two things at once, right? It's funding your home purchase, but it's also still in the other account compounding tax-free. So it's $1 doing two jobs. All right, now that you see how that works with your home, let's move on to another major purchase. Let's do it with a car. Everybody buys a car, right? The average American spends almost $470,000 on cars and maintenance over their life. That's 14% of everything they'll typically earn. Now, most people finance a car, right? It immediately becomes a liability. It drains your cash every single month. But the wealthy use the same system that we just talked about. So let's say that you funded $50,000 into your policy, and it's again earning 5%, compounding 5% a year. Then I can borrow $50,000 out of that policy at 5% to buy the car and pay it back, let's say, over 6 years. So you'll pay roughly $8,000 in interest back to your policy, but the policy keeps earning. And in this case, that ends up being about $17,000 over that same period. That's a $9,000 gain during the loan. Now, if you let that difference keep compounding, let's say for 20 years, and it grows to about $24,000 from one single car purchase. So instead of the car draining your cash flow, it actually helped build your net worth. The dollars that bought it never left your system. They kept working in the background this entire time. This is leverage. You're using the same capital, but in two places at once. You're driving the car today while your money's still compounding for tomorrow. Now, most people think leverage is risky, but real leverage is accessing capital without selling your assets, without stopping the compounding, without triggering a taxable event. You see, that's the difference between static wealth and liquid wealth. The static wealth philosophy says save up, then spend. When you spend, it's gone. But the liquid wealth philosophy says use it today, keep it growing for tomorrow. Okay, let's move on to the last example. Now, the average 4-year degree today costs about $160,000 all in. Most parents spend about 18 years stressing out about getting that number for their kids. But the wealthy, they set up a system long before the first tuition bill ever comes. Let's say that you fund $160,000 into your policy and it's growing at 5%. You borrow $160,000 at 5% to pay for tuition and living expenses, and you repay the policy loan over 10 years. So you're roughly going to pay about $44,000 in interest, but your policy continues compounding, earning about $101,000. That's a positive spread of about $57,000 while your child is getting their education. Now, if you let that $57,000 compound for an additional 20 years at, say, 5%, it grows to over $150,000. So you don't just pay for college. You turned an expense into a future asset. Now, that's what I mean by buying things in a way that pays you back. You're not just making one smart move. You're building a system where every dollar flows through multiple layers. Now, obviously, the math in those three examples is essentially the same. But I showed you all three examples for a reason, because the first time you see this, you might be skeptical. You'll probably think, well, that sounds too good to be true. The second time, hopefully it starts to click. You'll think, okay, maybe this is actually possible. But hopefully the third time, it finally sinks in. You realize it's not magic, right? This is a strategy that you can actually use. And when I say strategy, I don't just mean borrow against a life insurance policy. I mean arbitrage and leverage. You want to start looking for ways that you can get $1 doing 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 different jobs, right? Then the game becomes stacking as many layers as you can, as fast as you can. It could be insurance like we talked about. It could be real estate. It could be Bitcoin. It could even be your own business. Once you learn how to look for leverage and arbitrage, you'll see those opportunities everywhere. And when you understand that, everything changes. Your wealth creation accelerates faster than you ever thought possible. And that's the game the wealthy are playing. It's not about luck. It's not about timing. It's about understanding how to use the same dollar over and over again. Now, look, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do with your own specific money. But what I can tell you is this. These principles work. Whether it's your home, whether it's your cars, whether it's your kids' education, you can fund those things without losing the power of compounding. That's how you engineer real wealth, right? Income is earned. Wealth is engineered. I also have another video about wealth engineering called 3 Tax Loopholes Costing You $50,000 a year annually. Go check that out right here, and I'll see you over there.